Ordinary voice of spiritual ventriloquism. You are listening to the dummy himself. Well, once again, since this is what's in the limelight in the publications, the tabloids, the political front, the subject of abortion in the United States. You know, as deplorable as it may seem, and it is, believe me, it is. Again, like in the other day, I had a video. I said, I really don't know if I have a vested interest in Gentiles not aborting their children. And the reason is because because I want the playing field leveled. I don't want evil being perpetuated into the next generation and a generation of that, because fickle people finally decide they want to have children, and they're going to cultivate those same cavalier attitudes and values in their children. And then my grandchildren are going to have to grow up and live in the same kind of detestable environment that I'm living in right now. So actually, as far as I'm concerned, and I mean, you got the Hollywood people, they're wanting to, Disney and them wanting to boycott states that want to ban abortion. Well, I can understand why some of these Hollywood actresses would want to only film in states with abortion, because prostitutes need access to health care. That's a workplace right. I understand that. Okay. So anyway, but the main thing I want to talk about in this video is how, and it's an election year, and that's why this issue is being cranked up again, because we're coming into an election year. Other than that, it's always in the background. And then when the politics comes around, then they crank up the abortion bandwagon, and they, keep our mind stampeded around this one issue. As bad as this issue is, we become penniless in the process, while they are literally raping the average person for everything he has in the generations to come. Now I just want to, for a moment, talk about Christian and some Messianic Israelites' equivocations of this subject of abortion. And they want to compare abortion today in the same, they want to cast it in the same light as child sacrifice of years past. You do take too much upon yourself to think that you are anywhere near the quality of the people that existed in those days. And for you to equate your fickle decisions, or your fickle ideas about abortion, and people's fickleness about the issue of abortion, and for you to equate that to child sacrifice in ancient times, is utterly ridiculous. They weren't trying to, salvage their careers, their college, and things like that. They weren't using those types of reasons of why they would go get an abortion, or why they would sacrifice their child. But yet we still today want to equate the two together. Well, let me tell you something. The people in those days, and as wrong as child sacrifice is, they were doing it for much more noble reasons than why you would abort a child today. They actually believed that by sacrificing a child, that they would gain the divine favor of the Most High, or of a God, or a plethora of gods, that they would be gaining divine favor from those people, from those deities, which is a whole lot. And that their household, their village, their wealth, their future would be more secure as a result of that. So they actually literally sacrificed their children. They didn't sacrifice them from the womb. They sacrificed them after they were born. And the amazing thing of it is that this is the environment that Abraham was in. And even though the Most High obviously never intended for Abraham to go through with his child sacrifice, even though Isaac was about 27 years old. It's not like the little cartoon fairy stories that we play for our children. He was a grown man, so which shows you how submissive Isaac was to his father. Try that in this generation. Try that. So anyway, Abraham grew up in a world, in an environment, not just in Canaan, but in other places where child sacrifice and even infant sacrifice was practiced because they thought that that was a blessing. You read about this, they could obtain favor and blessing of this Baal Molech or any number of these other deities. I mean, you could go to Mexico. They had traditions of throwing virgins into volcanoes so that, their village and nation and economy and all of that would be spared from the destruction of an eruption. So they had a whole lot more reasons to do the things that they did. And like I said, Abraham grew up in that type of a construct. When he was taken to Canaan, he was introduced into that type of a construct. Not that Yah was the one requiring this, because by that time, they had already began to pervert the ways of Elohim in Canaan, and that was expressly spoken to him when Yah told him that the iniquities, or Elohim at that time, the iniquities of the Amorites was not yet full. But the amazing thing of it is that he wasn't shocked and abhorred. He heard this command. This is the voice he's been following the whole time. And he understood, all of the parameters around that. He understood also the fact that even if Yah did require that and he went through with it, that Yah was able to spare his son and keep him alive or raise him from the dead. Abraham, the father of faith. But that doesn't negate the fact that this was considered normal in that day. But the point I want to draw is that those people had theological, eschatological reasons for doing what they did. It was part of their cultures. It was part of their way of doing business. Okay? This is how they related to their deities, which is a whole lot more noble than, I made a mistake, so I now got to go out and obtain an abortion. No, you presume to be much more than you are today, modern woman, modern man, when you take that approach. And you do not pale in comparison to the pagans and the unbelievers of those days that were outside the Commonwealth of Israel. And if anything I said is upsetting to you, next time bring a life jacket.